One of the most significant trends we saw was things really changed in the world in 2022. Volatile market conditions is probably one of the biggest things we saw.
Well, I think there was a real knock-on effect after COVID came out of that. A number of different things actually were really prevalent. Remote work, people now working from home for the very first time, and municipalities hadn't dealt with that before. There were supply chain inflationary issues that really had an impact on capital budgeting. We've also saw interest rates increase, which has an impact on operating budgets. Labor availability and the ability to recruit and retain staff has been a significant issue for them. And in 5 provinces across country, there were municipal elections. So these were the types of things that were really impacting on municipalities.
I think we can see a number of trends emerging in 2023. One of the biggest things, and you've probably seen it certainly here in Ontario, housing. Housing is a big thing. Legislation has been implemented to try and encourage the development of more housing to increase the supply, and I think that's going to continue to be a trend in 2023. One of the other trends that I think that we're going to see is an increase in sustainability. And certainly my observation in terms of what's happened is we saw in the early days of COVID, there was a lot of things when people weren't driving anymore that you saw the benefits of actually, reduction in greenhouse gases. And perhaps that's put more of a focus and emphasis in terms of many countries around the world revisiting their sustainability objectives and understanding how important it is. And I think that really trickles down to our municipal clients and how they're integrating climate resiliency into their projects, but also just to try and hit their targets for greenhouse gas reductions by either 2030 or 2050. One of the other things I think is Indigenous consultation. I think it's kind of a sad commentary from a social perspective, some of the things that have come to light in the last 2 years. And what that's done is it's certainly placed a renewed emphasis on the sensitivity of reconciliation with our Indigenous communities. And certainly that first step in terms of consultation with those Indigenous communities is really going to be something that is going to be at the forefront of many projects. The other thing I would say is financial effectiveness. Municipalities really had a backlog of projects that kind of accrued during the first 2 years of the pandemic. There just wasn't the ability to get out into the field and try to get some of those things done. In 2022, one of the trends that we saw was these volatile market conditions that caused the cost of everything in terms of capital project delivery to go up. It really meant that the dollars were stretched farther. So as a result, there's really going to be a shift in terms of that mindset, in terms of how to reprioritize capital budget for what urgently needs to get done and how to ultimately be more financially effective with the money that municipalities have.
We anticipate that as we go forward, the unspent capital that's been, sitting in reserve accounts for the last number of years eventually has to find its way into the marketplace. And there's a number of large-scale projects that municipalities have on the books, as well as the state of good repair. So being able to manage that capital program in an effective way, in an efficient way, I think will be very important.
We have to be more open. I think it's just thinking outside of the box. So let's start with openness to new procurement processes. I think one of the big challenges is you've got this whole backlog of a lot of projects. The state of good repair has been kind of left on the back burner for a while. So we need to get more out into the market. So that just means we're going to have to think creatively about how we go about doing that. Different delivery methodologies or different procurement methods to enable to get us to market faster and be able to deliver the projects more efficiently.